Hey everyone, I'm Jordan from New St. Andrews College. I'd like to invite you to join us for one of our upcoming prospective student weekends. We have one on March 2nd and 3rd, and another from April 13th to 16th. To learn more and to register your visit, check us out online at nsa.edu. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
And we came back one more time.
We came back safety first this time. We're just in front of Rachel's house. If we run out of gas,
Do not travel.
we'll be able to
Mom
cope.
told me, I thought this was hilarious and so funny. She was like, I listened to your podcast and I loved when you guys were talking about being bad at things because your podcast is the perfect example. I was like,
Oh,
it's so true. We're being so gifted at being bad at podcasting.
Unthwarted by running out of gas and there.
My real concern here is if we're getting any better, and I doubt it.
Not.
We might be getting sloppier.
I think we might have touched a new low on that last episode.
Maybe.
Well, I think we...
Well, let's see what we can do today.
I think it
let's
was
see
a
what we
grand
can come
slam.
up with today.
We tagged all the bases of laughing ourselves into silence and then also running out of gas and, multiple
We did the
things.
important things first. So I had to tell you, I had two things I saved to tell you. Two things about my life going well that I thought you would enjoy.
When you say you, do you mean me?
Yeah,
personally? Not the
Well,
listening
obviously, I'm
crowds?
telling all of you at the same time my story. So this Sunday, we were having some people for lunch, so got up early, and I was like, but I was doing other things than getting ready.
Okay.
Getting myself ready for church. So by the time I was actually quickly getting dressed for church, I was like, there's not enough time in the morning here for me to blow dry my hair and curl it.
Right.
I could because I could blow dry it to the illusion of dry hair, but there's no way you could curl it at that point. It would be steaming up something. And so I speedster styled. I was like, time to cut losses, Rachel, and deal with it that you're wearing your hair
Time
straight.
to become a head coverer at church.
Yeah, wearing your hair straight today. Sport. So I was like, whatever. It's time to go. I threw a clip in my hair to keep it out of my face in the front, and a lot of fuzz. There was a fuzzy radius.
Yeah.
And I grabbed my hairspray. So this is in a hustle, Rachel. Time to go get in the car. Grab my hairspray to just get some of the fuzz to chill out around. And it was mousse. Just hosed my head off in mousse at the last moment. It looked like I was spraying one of those.
Delightful.
It looked like I was spraying one of those well, it's not exactly mousse, but it's a product like that. And it looked like I was spraying one of those wall texturing sprays. Just like all over the top of my head was like
orange peel.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, that is an outdated wall texture that you've put on your head. So
I've done that.
So that was good.
I've done that when I travel and I have stashed away little travel size in the approved liquid format. Like I had a small can of hairspray which I took on a trip, and I did the same thing. I blasted my head with it and realized it was a spray mousse that I had not looked closely at what bottle I was grabbing.
Ooh. So then the second thing was right before our parish soup night this last week. And by right before I mean like people are coming probably.
Right.
And I made an Ina Garten winter minestrone soup that was good. And
that's a good one. I've made that before. I think.
And at the last moment, you put some pesto and white wine in it or something.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, I was like, grab me the pesto. Told someone, whoever, the kids were all around. I was like, could you grab me the pesto? But I missed I missed it. I didn't track with the pesto the whole time. So Blair, I believe, who's an enthusiast for life, got it, but was like skipping through the dining room right in front of the buffet with it as she cracked it open. So the pesto oil just went for a distance. It went.
Yeah.
Before I even saw it, someone had hit it with the mop. So one of the kids was like, "Oh, get it!" and grabbed the rag mop. So basically, we created a large oil slick in front of the buffet, which is why when people came, I was actually with a degreasing spray on my hands and knees trying to keep it from being a death trap at the buffet.
That's awesome.
We buff our floors up with straight olive oil slick before you come.
Just as a little winsome, hospitable
Just kind of
gesture.
like to give you a little moment.
I remember somebody once in high school spilled some kind of acid on the floor in the science room.
Oh,
It was like,
Oh,
what
I
was it? Like
remember
folic
that.
acid, or I don't know what it is. I don't even know what folic acid is,
it's
but
to do. It's in all the prenatals.
so that
some-
might be why
some
it sprang
kind-
to mind. It
some
was
kind of
an
an
acid.
acid
Yeah.
was spilt. But I remember this because it was
I like folic as being the idea of
could
what
have
it
been
was.
that.
But whatever it was, it wouldn't clean up at all.
Well, it was probably the uncleanable acid.
And it just for weeks, people would walk past and wipe out. Just
It was like, but people would fall from like standing still
Yeah,
on the
standing
floor.
still,
It was amazing.
Oh,
it
yeah.
it was
yeah, it was intense.
impossible in
Yeah.
its glory.
Now I'm really curious what that acid was, because
I
clearly
bet Mr.
it probably
Struble still
wasn't.
remembers.
Yeah, no doubt he listens to our podcast. So
I mean, you should ask
We
him
should
when you
find
see
out.
him sometime, not on the podcast. I'm not saying Mr. Struble should write in and respond.
what would that have been, though?
I don't know.
Yeah,
But I do
anyway,
remember it. It was
yeah.
sort of one of those glorious moments. Also, like the other glorious moment when because Logos is in an old roller rink. It was a roller rink that.
Yeah.
So in our youth, the main hall was not carpeted. It was roller rink. It was
Yeah.
yellow roller rink.
Yellow,
floor.
like epoxy floor.
Yeah, and somebody dropped some thermometers or something on that thing because there was a mercury spill, a like hazardous zone of mercury spill, and mercury like balls up and rolls everywhere.
Yeah.
So I remember it being like quarantined off, and teachers in like hazmat suits. Out cleaning it up with like papers, like trying to catch the pills of mercury on paper.
Yep.
These are the things that make an impression as a child.
do.
The deadly
They do.
mercury spill in the hall.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was funny. Mercury,
Oh,
I always
goodness.
thought, everyone probably knows this, but I still think it's interesting that the Mad Hatter was actually a thing.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That hatters would go crazy because of all the mercury. They would rub mercury into the I feel like it was in the band. There was some time where they were really hands-on with mercury.
But I would think that would
Affect
deeply
the person
affect
you
the
put on their
person
head?
wearing it. Yeah.
You would think.
One would imagine.
Uh-huh.
It's a little fashion tidbit from
A little something
From the
something
annals there.
Yeah. Don't go in for the authentic methods
No,
on some
no.
of these things.
no.
Kind of like, you remember Granddad telling us how they made beef jerky?
Vaguely. Did it involve his clothesline?
Yeah, it's like they just hang up raw beef on the clothesline, like salt on it or something.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like whenever they were hungry, they'd just like shoo some flies off and grab some beef
Oh.
jerky. See, sometimes the old ways are not the ways we want to go back to. People are like, in the good old days when everyone who was not ruggedly healthy wouldn't have lived
I was gonna
past
say when
their
only the
infancy.
strong survived.
Yeah, in those days. But
Oh,
okay,
my
so there
word.
was something
Yeah.
someone brought up in a
You said you were gonna
message.
tell me
Yeah, I just
something
think
else.
that this is something that is worth talking about. I think it's interesting. So I come with a topic, which
All right.
is what someone asked what we would think of cosmetic surgeries that are, like, I guess, frivolous cosmetic surgeries, but presumably not large scale, but she was qualifying it, not like...
I missed this. So, okay.
So not large-scale cosmetic surgeries like... well, I don't know. I mean, I guess...
Just generally speaking.
No, the context that she was putting it in was combating the consequences of, like, sin and the curse and, like... so kind of like age spots and wrinkles and like or just pure vanity in the category, not like I'm not calling it a sin. I mean
Sure.
the like having your ears pinned back if you think your ears stick out too much, or just
okay.
kind of like that kind of thing. And I thought my first instinct is like there's a lot, or spider veins, the kind of thing that's
But
like,
here's the thing.
a
Like, I
ton
think
of-
before going anywhere with that, you would have to acknowledge at the front end, if God had thought there was a list of forbidden surgeries, he would have put it in the Bible. You know, like, and granted, there are things like the transgender surgeries are, I mean, that's just clear, right?
Well,
but it's not like,
but it's clear
like, if God
because
had
of
thought,
reasoning from biblical principles.
no, but if God had thought like forehead wrinkles, yes, nose job, no, then
Yeah.
it would have been in there. The thing you have to be able to do is reason from the principle, and you go from the principle to the
Right.
specific situation.
So this is what I
But
think is interesting,
This goes though to the logic thing we were talking about the other day,
which we
which
cut out of our bad
because
episode.
we were not.
Quick, Google a logic
Yeah,
textbook for
whoa,
us.
What's
because
happening? No, the thing is what often happens is someone will argue from one specific instance of when it was okay.
Mhm.
Then they reason up the chain from that to say, so you see, the principle is it's okay, and then they reason from the principle down the chain to another one.
Also,
And they say-
so they
and
would
so-
say someone got a bad burn on their face and it disfigured them in some way, and there was a cosmetic surgery that could repair that in
Yeah.
a way that every Christian would probably be fine with you doing, and that therefore boob jobs are
Right.
it.
Right, and the way they
Therefore,
jump
yeah.
from one to the other is by saying, see, there's nothing wrong with the surgery,
Obviously.
and if there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with the surgery, there's nothing wrong with any surgery.
So my question though about
So you have to
this,
start at the right end, is what I'm
when
saying.
you say transgender surgery is clearly out, and I agree with that from biblical principles.
Yeah, but I'm saying you reason from the biblical principle out to the
right.
surgery.
But what I'm saying is, on the one hand, you have that's one genre of discontent-driven surgical interventions.
Right.
But the other thing is the thing that I was thinking is that there is actually a uniquely Christian biblical approach to the problem of death and sin, and it is not cosmetic surgeries. That is the thing that, and also the Bible does talk about the honor due to older people. Like, it's actually not it's never treated. Aging in Scripture is a sign of something that you should be honored for, right? Like, it's not the
Right.
like Scripture is never like try to maintain your youth.
Yes.
That's not a biblical principle, to be trying to look younger than you are. And like it talks about gray hair being a honor, like things. There's a lot of like, it's not a thing, biblically speaking, to try to not look as old as you are.
On the other hand,
That's a cultural thing.
but I'm going to just like, on the other side, we do know that death is an enemy, and the last enemy to be destroyed will be death. It's not like that is a broken part of it's
Right?
a result
But
of the
somehow
fall.
I think it is, the problem is that we also think that we have in Christ the victory over that. So in a way, we're not.
But it's not yet. I mean, it's the already not yet part. But the
I
thing
know,
is,
but my point is that we're not combating death because that's the one thing about cosmetic surgery, is that we're combating the appearance of it.
Yes. I
But
was
we're
gonna
not
say-
actually doing a quick cosmetic surgery that lengthens your life 5 years.
But no, and here's the thing.
and if you could, should you?
our bathroom, this
Wow.
brings me to our bathroom.
Right back to that.
Yep. You knew it would come back sooner or later.
I'm going to look for
To
a way
my
to bring up the
bathroom.
sewage treatment plant in a minute.
No, so our bathroom is like one corner of our house that we have not yet gutted. And, well, we've gutted the other bathroom, but we haven't gutted this bathroom. The one functioning bathroom we have. And there were some workers, back when we were just renting the house, before we owned it, some workers came in to fix some stuff in there. And we had just moved in, and there was all of this mold up on the ceiling because there's not a real functioning fan in there. So what they did was threw some paint over the top of it.
That'll do.
And
that'll do.
That'll cover that puppy right up. And I remember talking to your brother-in-law, who was like, well, that's the worst because you're never going to get rid of it now. You know, like, it's trapped in there in between the layers of paint, and it's just there. So basically, until that bathroom gets gutted, that mold, like, we just periodically go in with, seriously, a sponge paintbrush and a bowl of bleach, and we just paint bleach all over the ceiling and the walls. And I was just looking at it earlier today, and I was like, it's time to get back up there with the bleach. But we can't actually get rid of the problem, because it's like, it's trapped in there. And I feel like that's kind of the situation where you're saying, like,
you can't actually do it.
You're not actually reversing the curse. Like,
no,
you're
not
putting a little coat of paint on top.
And I think the much more concerning part is, like, I don't have any problem with a Christian being like, if it's like, if their heart is not entangled in it. But if it is like, oh, you know what, while I'm here, if I don't even know how people do treat age spots, but if someone was like, while I'm here, you want me to zip off these age spots, it's like, oh, sure, why not?
See,
that's a totally different thing than someone who's being peering into the mirror every day to document them all.
But this is what I mean about, you have to reason from the principle, because let's say that somebody is going at it from the wrong end, and they say, well, death is the enemy, biblically speaking, which means that anything we do, because we're fighting
my
death,
wrinkles is the
any
enemy.
old thing we're doing is therefore battling for righteousness. It's like, no, it isn't. We know how death is conquered, and it's not through surgeries.
I will say I had a surprise aging the other day, because I got up. I didn't look at myself in the mirror until I'd already been up a couple hours. I felt like it. So I'm not sure how this came to pass, but I still had a, you know, like a
pillow crease,
total monster level pillow crease, but it looked more like I must have slept on the sharp edge of a ruler or something, because it was just, but it was like, but I was really confused because it was like cutting right through my cheekbone.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? Like, did I just develop a wrinkle overnight? like I was like, I haven't seen this. But when I smiled, it attached to my smile lines so then I was like, is this actually a new wrinkle? Like, did I pop a huge crease in my face overnight?
Oh, that's
but
funny.
as it turns out, it went away.
But here's the thing. I think that there's two simplistic ways of approaching the problem. One would be the approach of, yes, of course they're all bad. What are you thinking? The other approach would be, of course they're not bad. What are you thinking?
How dare you make that?
How
sort
dare
of a
you
judgment?
mention it? Because the truth is, like, we've got 49 of our children in braces, it seems like, you know, and it's like, what is that? That's taking cosmetic. So, I mean, you know, sure, like, it's nice when your teeth align and you bite correctly, but it's not exactly life-threatening.
No, it's a leisure.
It's a leisure activity.
It's a leisure and luxury thing.
And the truth is like, I'm like, no, I want my kids to have, like, nice straight teeth and have a nice smile, and that's a cosmetic intervention. But, like, if you say from that, this is what I mean about doing it wrong logically. If you say, see, braces are okay, therefore cosmetic things are fine, therefore foot binding is clearly not a problem at all. You know, like,
or not. I think the thing that is that there are things that are, I think what you're trying to say is maybe the principle, maybe there's nuance around some of this stuff, oh, well, I could totally see that the same surgery could be completely fine for one person and really foolish for another. But the reality is that even if it's nuanced, the principles are not nuanced, because the issues of, like, are you full of gratitude? Are you content are you? You know, like, there's a lot to talk about that presents at the same time.
There's contentment. There's gratitude. There's laying down your life for others.
There's knowing and embracing in some way that we're mortal. Like that, and that sometimes I think I just, like, every year I feel like I have an increased awareness of how little time we have.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, there's so much that needs to be done.
But here's a for instance. Like, let's say you have somebody who just let herself go totally to seed after she got married. Well, I think that actually laying down your life for others in that case would probably involve, you need to take better care of yourself. You need to love your husband with what you have, and this isn't it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that but then you have somebody else who is self-absorbed,
right,
and spends all their time on themselves. So,
or like if your husband is like, no, I'm really happy with you, and you're like, well, I just really hate this. Like, I don't like.
Sure, but
or we've all met those people who are like bizarrely fascinated with like how much they hate their wrist bone or their like toes. They're like, I can't wear flip flops. People might see my toes that I hate.
No, like, I just wow. But this is kind of like saying, in the abstract, is it a sin to eat that donut?
Of course
when
not.
You're like, well, no. The thing is, yeah, maybe, or maybe not. Did your mother tell you may not eat that donut?
No, but the sin is not in the donut.
But
here's
the
sin
thing.
Is in the.
But what I'm trying to say is that
you're saying donuts are sinful, and that's my logic lesson for the day.
I'm saying maybe it is.
Yeah.
And because the
sin
principle
would never be in the donut, though.
No,
but the sin would be in the misuser of the donut.
No, the sin would present in the donut, because if you told your child, no, you may not have the donut, then you walked out of the room, and so they quickly snuck the donut. That is how they manifested their disobedience, is right there in the donut.
What you saw, though, right, but it's not.
It could have been a keychain that they weren't supposed to touch.
Yeah, sure.
Anything. But the thing is that sin never remains in the hypothetical abstract. Sin always comes down to particulars.
Yeah.
And so there are certain things which are innocent perhaps in themselves, but can be used rightly and can be used sinfully, and it doesn't do any good to point to one instance where it's sinful or one instance where it's righteous. You have to be able to articulate the principle.
So this is something that this is changing the subject from cosmetic surgeries, but this is something that we were talking about with personality tests, or like the Enneagram or whatever. When we were talking about that, is that people will say,
I don't think we did that on the podcast.
We talked about some aspect of this, didn't we? Well, we were talking about it elsewhere because we were talking about it on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, the point is that people will say, no, this is a good thing because I learned this thing in it. Like, which is just reasoning the opposite way, which is saying because there was something here, then that justifies the whole situation. Right. And and it is the same. People just do that kind of sloppy reasoning with stuff. Like, it's like, oh, okay, this is in this place, like saying it's okay for me to eat a donut if I bought it at the grocery store. So if I saw it on my coworker's desk, it's okay to eat it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So the act of eating a donut is innocent, and I am conscious. Right. I have no qualms in my conscience as I steal donuts from others.
As I took it out of my friend's locker.
Right, and so
I make the argument that donuts are not inherently sinful.
And then you're like, and think about it. God gave us donuts.
We rejoice.
His glory.
We rejoice in His bounty.
This is His creation, and you're like, yeah, it's not for you right now. Like, back away from your neighbor's donuts. Like,
but I'm saying is that I think that it is super important to be able to articulate the principle. And this is, I know I probably have said this before on the podcast, but I think it is one of those sort of testimonies to the fact that the Bible was inspired by God instead of written by humans.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm sure I've given this example before, but the Bible says women are to be modest. It doesn't actually say, here's how long your toga needs to be.
And it doesn't say things like about the leotards when they come in. Like, the leotards are in vogue, what's not going to be good is the ones that are really, really high cut up over your hip bones. It's going to be a no-no.
But the thing is if humans had composed this document, we would have compiled a detailed
We
list.
would have gone so deep into every, like our neon leg warmers to attention getting and thus immodest.
Uh-huh. And
I think so.
And I was
think
actually just
triple
reading-
stacked scrunchies are
I was reading an article
the
today
same as gold in
on
your hair.
sumptuary laws in different cultures, and the sumptuary laws sometimes got incredibly particular about you may not have stripes, and you may not do this, and you may not do that, and you can't have a pearl, and you can't have. So the thing is, that's what humans just invariably gravitate towards is the checklist, and actually the Bible gives us principles that you can apply across all cultures. And so the thing is like, when you look at other cultures, it's often very easy to see, but we get entangled in our own cultural stuff. So like when you look at pictures of foot binding, you're like, how could anyone ever think this was okay?
No, like who signed off on that?
Yeah,
like
this is truly appalling. You're mangling
and
what God has given
in
you.
their culture, they're like, no, it makes them more beautiful, and they'll want to be more beautiful.
But no, one time we were talking about this very question in one of my classes, and I had a kid in the class who was a foreign exchange student from China, and he actually weighed in on the discussion and said, "We think small feet are beautiful." And it was like, and the rest of the class is like gagging. They do to their feet.
Yeah.
And so, but he was like, "No, but we think small feet are beautiful." So
then that's cool.
But the trick
Let's
is,
do that
is
then.
what I was going through with my students is like, let's try and articulate the principle here, and what are things that when you do them, you are glorifying the image of God versus things that you are defacing the image of God.
Right.
And obviously that doesn't, like, when you take somebody's jacked up, snarly teeth and you actually put them back in order, are you defacing the image of God, or are you glorifying it? And it's like, no, you're glorifying it. You're actually doing, you're
working with the
within the
creator,
mold.
and yes,
when
you're
you're taking your woman body and mangling it up to try and make it a man body, you're defacing the image of God. Like, this is not.
Well, more than that, and that's more complicated, because at that phase, you're not just defacing the image of God, but you're actually trying to insult the creator. And like, it's an effort.
Yeah.
It is a deliberate effort to say, you didn't make me.
Right.
I made me.
So when the guy, tattoos his entire face with scales and has his nostrils like surgically changed to make him look like a dragon, he's actively defacing the image of God. And so then you have to say, like, okay, the principle then is, clearly sin has broken us. There are
Right.
lots of results of the fall that are, if they're correctable, and they're correctable in a way that doesn't make you self-obsessed and vain and all of these things, it's like, fine, whatever, knock yourself out.
Fine. Yeah.
But the thing is, like, could somebody use braces in a way that was vain and horrible?
This is
it's
actually
of course
something
you
that
could.
I was talking with my children about, because obviously one of the cultural things we have is like the all kinds of colors of hair that's not natural colors of
Right.
hair, and not just there's like, to me, there are different classes of hair coloring. One of them is the class of whatever, in what we would call it, you're enhancing what you already have, or people are, whatever, but they're working within a palette of colors that are that appear in creation.
Yeah, colors found in nature.
Right. Well, then then there's all the popular ones that are like green. See a lot of really ugly green, blue, pink, purple. Like all of those colors. And I really think, I think it's interesting just to look at it. And I'm like, I think maybe 1 out of 100 people who have dyed their hair an unnatural color are in any way flattered by the color that they put by their face. Like, they do not look...
I would put the number as quite a bit smaller than that, but
well,
anyway.
I'm saying that because I think I have maybe seen 1 or 2 people that I actually thought still looked like a pretty person with a weird hair color.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
Like, where you're like, you still at least managed to pick a color that didn't make you look incredibly sallow. Like, at least you didn't just, like, permanently light your face up with the worst lighting in the world. You know, like, at least there's something else. At least you're still flattered somehow by this situation. And I don't think it's not something that, like, I think this is a really interesting issue, because I do believe principally I don't think it's anchored in the color of hair that it is. I don't think it is, I think it's a much more complicated issue than that. Like, but I think that what is typically manifesting in that behavior culturally right now is the same denial of the creator, and the same, I am who I want to be, I do what I want to do, no one can say anything about it to me, so I'm going to do this. So right now, I think that it generally speaking, represents people who are in some phase of nihilistic despair. Like, whatever, they are in some stage of that, whether it is a Christian who is just intaking things that the world is saying and not thinking about it, which is obviously the best possible way to be in that problem.
Right.
But I do think that it's quite possible that in a number of years it won't mean that. Do you know what I mean? Like, in the same way we talk when women first started wearing makeup, it was only whores that would wear makeup.
Depends on what century you're talking about, because I think women
not
worn makeup for all time.
Yeah, but I mean, in most recently in America, probably like what, the 1800s.
Well, that goes back to the sumptuary laws, because you weren't allowed to wear stripes, because I think that's what the prostitutes wore. Anyway,
yeah. So, but that kind of thing, because when my point is that when it first happened, Christians are not actually supposed to be the fashion world early adopters.
No.
Because almost universally, it's some kind of rebellion or something happening.
Or,
like,
on the surgery front, I do think that when there was the mania for everyone getting implants, and it was always really funny because, like, we live in Moscow. There wasn't a big surgery center here. So you're going around, life is normal, everyone is normal. Then you go, with the occasional thing. But then you go...
There's a whole lot of normal people in Idaho. It's true.
But then we go down to Boise.
Whoops.
And it would be like, has every single woman at the mall gotten implants? It appears so. But the thing is that is... Clearly, our culture is demented sexually. Like, completely demented. And you have women who are actually sacrificing their bodies on the altar of a really twisted mentality. But then the other thing, too, is, like, on that one, I have no problem with, I don't know, somebody who's had a mastectomy, whatever. You can think of all kinds of stuff, but
there's lots of reasons to be thankful that the technology exists.
But the truth is you have all of these women who are actually destroying the one thing that, like, the one function of their breasts in the name of...
I wouldn't say the one function, but it is. But it is the primary purpose.
No, but I mean, like, the actual function.
Yeah.
They're destroying the function, and it's like, wow, have we gotten ourselves so twisted as a culture?
So I was gonna say, when we were talking about people who are defacing the image of God in the sense of, like, tattoos all over your face, if you're going for it in the still trying to be beautiful, in that, like, boob jobs, big inflated lips and long fake eyelashes, and you're trying to be beautiful, but it's defacing the image of God with a sexual perversion, because the idea is that what God made is not erotic enough. Like,
or I think
we need to bring in a lot of other details.
Lie. I think it's just it's buying into a lie about what women are supposed to be for,
or what your value is.
Yeah.
What is God glorified by in you? Like, what is it? And if it seems like it is a wrong-headed approach to self. I mean, it's like, what am I?
And oftentimes it's because the women are desperately sacrificing themselves to their, whatever, to the men's actual twisted, the whole thing, like, that
it's a big cycle of doom.
It is a big cycle of doom. And I just think if Christians are galloping after that, then they have obviously taken the bait. And so there's certainly ways in which I think any surgery, aside from I can't possibly think why a transgender surgery. That one just seems all the way out. But
You
I'm
have
just
to
saying,
get really, really
like-
far in the skinny branches of
But
someone
just the
being born a
basic-
hermaphrodite.
but basically, like, I don't think there's any way you could say this surgery is wrong, this surgery is right. But there's lots of ways that you could say you doing that surgery is very wrong.
Or also, this industry is
yeah.
wrong. This doctor is perverse. That
Right.
this is what he's
Right.
gotten into.
This
Like,
woman is desperate and sad and needy.
you are preying on people who, yes.
Yeah.
Like, and I want to be clear, what I was trying to say earlier, that I just think that there's a lot for Christians to think about, is that we should not be, like, what drives the world's fashion, you know, what's cool, it is like one never-ending Sneetches on the Beaches episode.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like,
Oh, it is.
I mean, like, we're all just trying to achieve the new thing that sets us apart, that looks whatever, that ticks all the boxes of what we want to look like when we are seen in public, and what we want to, what things are we trying to get people to associate with us when they
Yep.
see us? What do we want them to think of? How do we want this to be going? All of that fashion drive. The reason I said I think typically Christians are not supposed to be on the cutting edge of the fashion is because it is a incredibly kind of nihilistic pursuit of
Well,
vanity.
I don't think I would quite say it that way, though, because I think in an ideal culture, Christians would be at the forefront.
but not that one.
No,
That
not that
is
one.
the thing, is that when people say, so for instance, the whole issue of like, well, yeah, you say that what's happening on the runways is dumb, but you're buying it a few years later, which we absolutely are, all kind of.
Well, wildly deluded, but anyway, yeah.
But we are on the train that starts at the high fashion runways and ends in.
And it doesn't even do you any good to say, that's why I wear prairie dresses. Because all
Okay,
that
do ya?
means, it just means that you're way in the back of the train, because that train was being driven by the ungodly culture.
And Paris
in,
Paris's
200
fashions and
years
everyone
ago.
tried. So I just think that my point is that if you're like lapping up whatever the world gives you about what is the cool new way to look this season, then you need to maybe reconsider some other more Christian pursuits, in the sense of like, be a little busier while you're.
Yeah, but I think the thing is there's I think the question is, which verses are you quick to dismiss in favor of other verses? Because the Bible is very clear that charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. You are not supposed to be seeking your identity in beauty, because it's a losing battle anyways. Like,
And it's just not doing it. It's not.
Don't lay up your treasure where moth and
it's
rust destroy,
and it's
and where
deceitful.
wrinkles are coming for you.
Don't lay up your treasures. Yes, exactly. Don't lay them up where no matter what, you're going to get gray hair.
You're
Like,
gonna lose.
It's happening.
in the end.
It's happening to you.
But so there's those clear verses. But then on the other hand, we are also that we're never told that it's wrong to be beautiful or it's wrong to care about it. Sarah was a beautiful woman, and like there's all of this stuff. That, the question is, which one are you ready to jump in?
Don't you think that Esther was basically that? I was laughing. I've always felt like they must have been basically embalmed by the time they saw the king.
I
'Cause you're
really
like,
wish we knew what
like
they were doing.
6 months with
I
oil of myrrh. I mean, like,
Yeah.
what could you have been doing all that time?
Well, you would have been real slippy.
You would think that you would have infused you so deeply that you
might
yourself
have.
would
I
have
don't know.
become an oil of myrrh at that point.
Well,
anyways,
yeah.
aside from that, the of course, beauty is not it is a thing that God created and that He gave us, and women are supposed to be beautiful.
built it into the
which
world.
is actually part of the reason we would object to things like the ugly hair trends or the whatever women with a. Years ago, we had a downstairs neighbor who had a lot of variety of piercings and no makeup and bad skin and hair not done and a big bowl ring in her nose.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And they were always smoking pot, and we always felt bad about that. We were always like trying to be friendly, like they'd be out smoking on the. Well, one time I come out of the house and she's sitting there in this t-shirt that says "piss off" with a big bull ring in her nose, and I was like, "Hey, Sarah, how's it going?" Trying to small talk with this person. I was with someone else, and after we left, I was like, "Oh, she's a sad little muffin." And they said, "How do you know that?" Like, how could you have made that judgment?
You don't know.
No, it was just like, how could you know that she's not happy? And I was
you're
like,
oh,
look at her.
Basically, it was the sign she was holding that says, "I'm a sad little muffin."
There was nothing about it that was subtle, but it was also like she dressed herself to communicate despair.
Yeah.
Doing like everything about this.
Yeah.
And people know this. We dress to communicate, and we all speak this language.
Yeah.
Like all humans understand the lingo, but we pretend we cannot.
And we
sometimes.
get mad if someone pretends
We're
they
like,
can.
how dare you think you knew what she meant by her blue hair?
I don't know if I've used this example, but just, sorry guys, you're going to hear it again. I do this in...
I think we're making a car foggy.
We're getting foggy. Let's turn on the defrost.
Ignore
it, guys.
the nor making.
Yeah, the noise. Here it comes. No, the thing is, I do this example in my lit classes, and this is really funny, where if you say, "Okay, everybody, get out a piece of paper. You're going to introduce a character in a story. You've got to describe this person to me."
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you what this girl is like, and then you're going to describe what she's wearing and how she's carrying herself and everything. So you describe, this is a girl who has been mistreated by every man, in her life, starting with her dad.
Alcoholic.
Her mom's an alcoholic. She's sometimes suicidal. She's got a long history with drugs. She listens to death metal.
Yeah.
And she is... describe that girl. Now, you introduce her into the story, and you tell me
you describe
what she
this
looks
character
like.
for
And
me.
Everybody's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, got it.
Oh, I know just that person. I see that person often."
And they describe the person, and I'm like, "Okay, now how many of you had her wearing pink and chewing gum? Like, bleached
Does she
blonde?
have a high ponytail?
Yeah, high
Is
ponytail,
she-
blonde, chewing gum. It's like, no.
Did anyone?
Nobody has her.
Nobody.
It's like everybody knows.
Doesn't mean, and this is
But
not
here's
a
the thing.
statement that there's no blonde, suicidal, abused
No.
people who look cheerful.
No, it's just that we all actually know how to read cultural symbols. So you say, like, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, she's wearing like torn fishnets and black Converse," or she's wearing like lumberjack boots and she's got like dyed black hair that's all in her face.
Top,
or she's wearing black lipstick and she's got a tattoo around her neck, like a choker tattoo on her neck.
Yeah, or like a dog collar. She might be wearing a dog collar.
And she's got her hair in her face.
Her hair is
She
asymmetrically
shaved
butched.
one side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows how to describe this girl.
And then you say, what if you wanted to write in like a girl who was like a math whiz, who was, and everyone's like, oh yeah, let me write her. I know exactly what she would be wearing.
But the thing is like, we actually understand, and
I've got a cellist.
You
actually could keep going at this with forever.
But I'm like, or it's the bratty, manipulative cheerleader who is a backstabber, that's the girl who's doing, anyway, we all understand this, and we know how to read, like, the difference between the actual cowboy and the cowboy, the Abercrombie cowboy. Right? The sort of like the frat boy cowboy who's never, we know the lumbersexual from the actual lumberjack. We all can tell the difference.
Wasn't there that video where they pulled random lumberjack guys off of like Brooklyn, had them like try to cut a log in half, like give them an axe when they're wearing like classic lumberjack boots, and they're like
flannel shirt.
I'm totally ready with this beard
Chiseled
of mine.
Beard.
They're like, can you chop wood? Nope.
No. Don't know which end of the axe.
Don't know how to do this.
But the thing is we actually know how to read it. And so then it's very funny when you actually read it and everyone says, "How dare you? You don't know what's happening."
We know how to read it. We know how to write it. We traffic in it 24/7, and then we just get our feelings hurt if anyone acts like it might mean something spiritual.
Right. So,
which is like, I see from your outfit that you need help with despair.
Yeah. But the thing is,
like,
we also know
that
we understand that hypocrisy is a thing too. We understand people
totally.
who have a clean-cut outside and they're despairing on the inside. We understand that. So you can't say, I can read their hearts, because we do know that is something we can't do. But we do also know that when somebody's like billboarding, hey, I am a struggling girl who hates God. That it's not
Christians
like,
should not be afraid to take the cue and ask them if they need to talk.
It's like, I see that you look like you're hating God.
This is what is behind the amazing scandals of every modesty statement that's been happening since whatever. I don't know when they first started being an epidemic in Christian circles, but you know, the great outrages over the whatever. Yoga pants. One day it
Just
was
anything.
that. Bikinis.
Always,
that's happened.
perennially.
Bikinis has happened for ever since bikinis
Happened.
were, ever since. Probably since bikinis were knee-length dresses, it's been happening. Whatever it is, it's been happening. But this is what all the outrage is over anytime someone uses it as indicative that there may be a spiritual concern.
Then it's
When
like,
then
how
it was like,
dare
you appall me. You and your dirty
and
mind.
your whitewashed tomb.
You are the worst.
Yeah.
I once had someone say to me in a really nasty tone, real bad. Real bad, guys. And it was in the face of some substantial sin.
Okay.
Real sin that I had to, I would say actually red hot sins. Big time sins that I'd had to call out. And someone was so angry with me about it. Said that they did not ask me to keep them accountable.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not specifically an accountability partner, you can't see it. Like,
No.
you don't see anything.
No.
You have no eyes. And then she said, we need vanilla white girls like you. But we also need, it was like this more complex, these more complex fudge ribbon girls or whatever they were. Moose tracks girls. She didn't go that far.
Yeah,
She didn't run it into the ground in that
no.
way. She just left it with so much despisal for the vanilla white girls.
Yeah.
Which
But
I need to just be clear. We're just people who were not currently entangled in this
sexual sin.
really red hot sexual sin. Yeah.
But the thing is I feel like we are way quick to say, you can't possibly know that that's what this person means by their cultural trappings. And it's like, well,
I think we can.
I think we can be relatively sure that we understand the culture we live in. Now, I know that, like, when you step across into another culture, even when it was just England, I suddenly had no grid anymore.
Yeah,
Like, I would look at them and I would think, now, what are you? Like, what is this outfit you're wearing? I can't figure it out.
Can you tell me what this
Like,
means?
are you being a prairie muffin, or are you being like an
incredibly
ironic,
hip?
very chic? Like, I can't tell. And the thing is like, after living there a few years, suddenly I'm conversant enough that I can identify it, but then you step out of it and you don't know anymore.
So if you take it out of fashion though, and there's other ways, like if you saw someone with like tears in their eyes and drawn cheeks looking in the window of a bakery longingly at breads and you said, are you hungry?
Yeah.
Then would you be in sin for having taken into account the situation, how they're looking? Yeah. Could I help you with that? Like, could I buy you a loaf of bread? Mm-hmm. But, and I hope that people would not think that was scandalously rude, because my word. No. But on the other hand, that it's not just not rude. It's the job of a Christian to be like, oh, look, now that situation is obviously a physical problem, but how many Christians look exactly like that, longingly looking through the window at the world? Like, all I want on the other side of this glass is a Sex and the City lifestyle, but I can't have it for some reason.
Right.
So
I'll
I'm
just
standing around
glued to the window.
Standing around here. Well, in that case, the role of the Christian is not to say, can I help buy you this licentious lifestyle, but to say, you need Jesus. Like, you need something else. You need to long for something else.
And if you see some poor girl who's clearly trolling the room for guys to whistle at her, like, if this is what she is obviously fishing for, then it's not reading her heart to say
No, it's
this.
reading the
It's
situation.
It's reading the visible
You're
manifestations.
You're not saying with my secret glasses I got in my Christian cereal,
No.
I am able to see your true colors
you're
in
just
your
saying,
heart.
like, I actually...
You're just saying, oh, dang.
I
do
know
you
how to
need
read
help?
the story.
Like, do you need some help?
Yeah,
So-
and so, like, back on the cosmetic surgery thing, I think the same thing is kind of true. If you see a woman who is in desperation trying to keep her youth and her beauty, then that shows you where her heart is. Like, where
exactly.
you're...
Like,
so,
what window are you
but
staring
the
through
whole-
longingly?
Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Like, you actually can tell where someone's heart is based on where their treasure is. And and if you see a woman who is throwing herself after a desperate cling to beauty, which you know, A, it's a losing battle anyway, and B, this tells you that her heart is in the wrong place. You can say, like, in that case, I think you're way out right here on this.
Right.
But if you see somebody else who is obviously content and grateful and cheerful and
It's the
hardworking,
kind of person who would lay it
And they're
down
like,
in a
hey,
heartbeat. That's
guess
the thing.
what?
It's the person who doesn't care.
the person who's like, I got my wrinkles taken out. Ha ha ha.
Look at me
that.
be so young.
You know, whatever. And you might say, oh, I wouldn't do that.
You
Or
might be
whatever.
Like, interesting.
Like, interesting life choice you made. But you wouldn't have the same...
No, not at
You wouldn't
all.
have the same concern about it. And so I just think it's the question is, like, what are you pursuing and why are you pursuing it and where is your heart?
Well, I think there's also that thing about who are we? You know, like I'm not going to quote the verse correctly, but it's like, who am I to take good from the hand of the Lord and not evil, right?
Yeah.
And you think, who are we to accept youth from the Lord
Yeah.
and not age?
And not wrinkles. Yeah.
Like, who are we to accept our skin before it got saggy
yeah.
and not accept it when it did? Actually, just totally reminded myself of Lena wrote a paper in first grade or something
Okay.
about what she wanted to, somehow, I don't know, it was just a paper that came home, but she described Grandma Bessie as the lady with the saggy white cheeks.
Oh.
And it was so sweet because it was a very little kid's description
Yeah.
of your grandma, who was like, to her, this like haze of
Yeah.
like, just of like something, like she
Yeah.
didn't even understand her very well, and yet I loved it so much because she was writing about wanting to be like her because she was a missionary in Japan or whatever.
Yeah.
It was really cute. But anyways, my point is that the age is not that, you know, it's like that itself is not the enemy at all. Like, if you're in the joy of the Lord, then what you are is so much wiser, so much richer. Like,
Yeah.
as you have been pursuing Christ, that the age is something you don't resent at all.
Yeah. You just...
You're like, but those years brought me in the same way that I can think, like, I really just don't care about the stretch marks that I have.
Sure.
Because I'm
Yeah.
like, because this was part of bringing me some of the greatest gifts of my life.
Yeah.
Like, how could I resent this when it was
Right.
And the same can be true of the years, like the years that have
Right.
brought you wisdom and greater love and a greater understanding of God's kindness for you.
Yeah.
And you can embrace that and not at all resent the marks of it.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with trying to
Oil of Olay.
age well. But
Yeah.
it's just, and I do think it does come down to which verses are you more likely to try to explain away. Like, if somebody says charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, and you say, yes, but the Bible actually never says, and the da-da-da-da-da.
Don't you know that the Garden of Eden was about...
But, or are you the kind of person who, when somebody says Sarah was a beautiful woman, you're
I
like,
hate her.
no, but if it's like, no, beauty is vain.
She
We are
only
not
had
supposed
beauty.
to.
She
We
only
aren't
had
supposed to
beauty
care
in
about
her
that.
spirit.
Yeah.
She did not have any
And
beauty.
it's like, so some people are scared of the physical world, and some people are in desperate cling to the physical world.
right, and and then we can't talk about this without mentioning competition. It's like if you have a friend who just happens to be aging much more beautifully than you are, or much more gracefully than you feel
Sure.
like you are, and I think it's Thomas Watson. It might be somebody else. It's about the about a one jewel in the crown of Christ does not It was kind of about how you would never resent another jewel in the same crown shining brighter than you.
Right.
Like, if you're oriented correctly, even that doesn't matter. And we also see that we went over time.
We're just sloshing right over the 50-minute mark.
She just lit up the phone so we could check.
We're like, ooh.
But guys, this is just another example of us being really good at being bad at it.
Oh, so fast tip. What's your tip? Oh, you were gonna say what you do for St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, because we were going to talk about recipes. I do Colcannon.
When is St. Patrick's?
I think it's the 17th.
March?
Of March, yeah. I'll share the recipes on the Facebook page because I do a corned beef cooked in brown sugar and Guinness, which is really yummy.
Sounds really good.
And then Colcannon.
I love Colcannon.
That Colcannon is like
I had it at
mashed
your house
potatoes
once.
with cabbage and green onions and
so
parsley and bacon all
I've
in it.
had it at your house once, and I went home
And
and
then
I made it, and it
and
was
then
amazing.
a challenge to our readers. Well, whatever. I'm about to say the thing that will earn me resentment among some people, which is
what?
I've never had a soda bread I thought was worth having.
No.
So if you have that secret magical soda bread, let me in on it because I've given up trying to make them. I just make other things for
but
bread.
the corned beef, okay, so I did once Irish car bomb cupcakes and they were really good. I did those for a St. Patrick's thing. And
nothing testy about that name either. Nothing at all culturally offensive.
No, nothing there.
No, nothing.
No, but they were Irish car bomb cupcakes, and I feel like I did some kind of hybrid of a couple of recipes, but they actually were surprisingly good, as I recall. And so
it sounds good. So between us, we've made a whole menu.
So there, I think that I'll find out about the Irish car bombs.
I think I don't mind corned beef that's just been boiled, but it's just doesn't kill it for me. One time we had a big
also we
St.
should
Patrick's
add
Day
that
thing
we are
with,
not
I had all this.
Irish or Catholic. So why do we celebrate St. Patrick's Day?
I'm not Catholic. I am not. Yes, we actually are a little bit Irish, but
tiny
my
fleck in there
husband
somewhere
is
from Chicago.
From Chicago, where there's so many people that they dye the river green just to celebrate.
I feel like
but
we all
he is also Irish, more than I am Irish. So we have at least some.
We
his
like
grandma
the song
was,
St. Patrick's Breastplate. So.
Evelyn, what was her last name? It's a very clearly Irish last name. Was his grandma? So he has some of that. So we celebrate. We celebrate, but we celebrate it just with the food, pretty much.
And then wear orange as a little Protestant.
Yeah, we do sometimes. No, we joke about wearing orange. We don't have orange, so we don't wear it. Maybe Becca and I will bleach and dye our hair orange this year to flatter ourselves, or to make our complexions look fresh and young.
Make corned beef and Colcannon, but have a little Irish. Little orange
Protestant flag
in
it.
Yeah, little.
But St. Patrick couldn't not have been Catholic at that time.
Sometimes it wasn't Catholic, and that's the thing. That
sometimes
it's
you have
anachronistic to say
because you have to say. Well, no, he wasn't Catholic, but he was
part of the church.
Right. So you're like, maybe he would have, had he been born later, been a great reformer. We don't know.
Maybe. But he was born before before the fork in the road.
All right. So he didn't have to worry about it.
So,
all right.
Anyways,
have a good week.
Have a good time, guys.
Fare thee well.
Bye.
I'm a 2009 graduate of New St. Andrews College, and I'm a commercial property manager.
3 kids at Logos, 1 at home still, and I do flowers on the side out of our house. When you have these little people that you're responsible to shepherd, you realize I need to know what I'm talking about because they need to have a firm foundation and they need deep roots so that they don't get blown over and that they're ready to stand up for the truth.
I am a programmer. The language aspect of NSA is a fantastic preparation for any sort of programming.
I'm a real estate broker here in town. I think absolutely the perfect education for being in sales of really any kind.
I actually put it to a lot of great use when I was working in the political realm.
I am a pastor in Central Coast, California. Whatever vocation you take, it'll make you take that seriously because you're seeing it through the lens of the sovereignty and lordship of Christ.
To learn more, visit us online at nsa.edu.